Life Happens is the podcast that helps you build mental fitness. I am James Gwinnett, endurance athlete and the marketing director of 87%, the mental fitness app that brings you this podcast. And in this series, I speak to inspirational people to get their take on life's ups and downs, how they've overcome setbacks, and what it means to them to be mentally fit. Now, this week, I'm delighted to welcome this week's guest, because it certainly takes mental fitness to give a TED Talk and a whole load of courage as well, to give one as personal and as vulnerable as this lady did earlier this year in April. She is a mum. She works for the NHS. She is very open about having mental health issues, which include high functioning anxiety and depression. We'll come on to that. She is a mental health first aider, a speaking up advocate, and in her own words, she is all those things and so much more. I'm very excited to explore all those things and so much more. And I'm very pleased to welcome to Life Happens, Rachel Williams. Rachel, hi.
So thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. As you know, we are a mental health platform, mental fitness platform. And the first and probably the most important question I ask all of our guests is, how are you?
I am actually doing really well. The sunshine has helped a lot with helping my mood. It's been nice to go out and enjoy the sunshine, go for walks, and actually enjoy walking, not just walking by force because there's nothing else that we were allowed to do.
The day of walking that was allowed.
Exactly. It's been nice to just be outside and warm, not just, sunshine for fun. It's actual warm sunshine where you can just enjoy it. So yeah, I'm feeling good. It's been a lovely weekend.
Wonderful. And we spoke before we started recording. You said you'd done some yoga. How important do you find physical fitness in terms of how it benefits your mental fitness?
It's really important, actually. When I've looked back in the past, even before I, realized exactly what it was that was going on with me, I know that when things have been hard for me, I've used exercise a lot. I ran a half marathon when I broke up with my daughter's dad. That was my coping mechanism, was to throw myself into that, and I done the half marathon. And now I've started doing yoga, which I really enjoy. I do Bikram yoga, which is in like a hot yoga studio.
The sweaty one.
Yeah, because I need some kind of challenge, and I know that people that don't do yoga may not realize that it's actually really challenging anyway. Trying to get into those positions is quite challenging anyway, but the added heat makes it even more intense. It feels like boot camp, and I really enjoy the feeling of completing each class. And you really can't think about anything else in those sessions because it's so intense. There's no space to be thinking about anything other than trying to breathe.
I fully approve. For anyone watching who doesn't think that yoga is hard, I fully appreciate what you've just said, Rachel. I can run 100 miles in one day, but I can't touch my toes. So I find yoga poses very, very hard. My fiance tries to get me to do it every now and again, and it's agony. So well done.
Thank you.
You mentioned, you just used the phrase, when you realized what was going on with yourself. Let's dive into that. But first of all, I read one of your interviews recently after we first were introduced, and you introduced yourself as a mum who works for the NHS and as someone who has mental health issues, in that order. And I thought that was very, very pertinent. Was that deliberate on your part? I mean, I suppose the question I'm coming to is, you put the mental health issues at the end as if, they don't define you. Is that right?
That is right. I don't put my mental health issues on the platform anymore. I think initially when I first got the diagnosis, I definitely would talk about it at the forefront of myself more. I still think it's really important to talk about it, but to understand that I am me first. My favourite role is being mum, which is why I put that at the front. But I'm Rachel and I have mental health issues, but I'm still Rachel. And I put it in that order because I am still Rachel as mum, I'm Rachel at work, and I'm Rachel with mental health issues. So even the work, the placement of what I do, that's not me. And even in my role at work, I have definitely brought my whole self into that more so since accepting that part of me is high functioning depression and anxiety, because it's with that momentum of coming back from having a real, like, I hit the bottom. I can't even, there's no other way to describe it, is that I just went to the bottom, round the back of nowhere. And my come up, it made me at work bring more of me to work, which is why I'm a speaking up advocate and an inclusion agent at work, because that is more so me than my main role, which is in admin as a manager. But still, I bring me.
Always. I mean, it sounds like, sort of, rather than, you've sort of gone to the opposite extreme, and I love it. Rather than being defined by these issues, you're embracing them, and that's just sort of part of who you are. But obviously, the work that you're doing and talking about it is just so inspirational for others. You mentioned high functioning anxiety and depression. Would you mind explaining what those mean?
Yes. So I actually only found out about high functioning depression, or having a name, by doing a couple of searches on the internet and trying to figure out what was wrong with me and why I couldn't fix it myself. Because as far as I was concerned, I was normal and I was doing what everyone else was doing. And so I needed to sort myself out because I was that being lazy, or I wasn't being motivated enough or something, but I needed to fix it. So I was kind of looking for like vitamins that could help me or supplements that could help me so I could just get on with life. And then I was doing some searches and it started popping up, high functioning depression. And I read an article by someone and it was me. And I was like, this is what's going on with me. And it's basically that you have depression and you have anxiety, but somehow you're able to continue looking as though you don't have those issues until you're alone. And then it kind of just all bubbles over and comes out when you're on your own, when you're in spaces alone, or where you can feel kind of safe, or at your safest. But in public, people wouldn't know. So for me, when I first went and was told that I have depression and it was simply labelled as that, I spent a long time in the doctor's surgery on that day saying my workplace will not believe me because they were signing me off work. And I was like, they're going to think I'm lying. They're going to think I'm lying. I cannot take this sick note and give it to them because they won't believe me. Because as far as I was concerned, I'd done a very good job of not showing them that anything was wrong. And for me to suddenly be coming in and going, oh, hey guys, just going to get signed off with depression. It's like, no, I can't do this. It's not going to work.
But the fact that you're saying that with a smile on your face, laughing as you say it, that's the whole, summarizes the whole thing so perfectly. You're doing well in your job. You've got a smile on your face. You come across as such a wonderful, bubbly person, and your TED Talk had so much passion in it. And yet there's these problems underneath. And it's such a difficult thing for some people to get their heads around, that you can go through life and yet have these problems underneath.
Another reason why I want to be more vocal, because I do want to inspire other people like me going through the same types of thing, because I want them to see me succeed in almost the same way as I want my daughter to see me succeed. I want to be visible and vocal so that people can think, okay, she's doing it and I have these issues or other issues, whatever the issue, see me do it and think I can do that too. Even I'm a single mum, so I do flexible working, and I still want to make it. I want to make it to the top. I don't want people to be afraid to ask for help in any form. I needed my flexible working for my mental health. It was for my mental health. That's why I asked for it, because I was struggling. I had too much going on. I was trying to juggle too many balls, and I asked for flexible working. And I know that sometimes on paper, people can feel like that might be maybe damaging to their career progression, because, oh, a single parent, they've got a child, they might need school holidays, and oh, they're asking for flexible working. But I'm gonna be like, no, we can do this. We can do this too. We can make it work. And I want people to see that, really see that, because before, what they would have seen is happy, smiling, laughing Rachel, to the point where I was hyperventilating about saying I have issues, because it's been years, it was my normal. And to step out of it and be like, actually, do you know what? I'm not all right. It was hard, but I literally had nothing else left. I had no more fight left. So that's why I did it. I think if I had just even a little bit left, I wouldn't have done it. Even I didn't, because actually the first time I got signed off, they wanted to sign me off for 2 weeks and I said no. And I said, don't put depression on my certificate, put stress. And I took 7 days and I went back to work. And it was the second time that I then was like, okay, yeah, there's a problem. I'm going to take the time off now.
That must have been such a remarkable realization for you. So you're trying to fight it off the first time. Yes. And then it comes back around, and there's that it sort of dawns on you. Oh, right, okay, there's a problem here. Well, I mean, where do you think these problems? Have you been able to identify where these problems have come from, where the roots or causes of them have come from?
So I've got to the point now where I'm like, okay, this is me. And I have these issues. Like some people have arthritis, or some people have hay fever. Rachel has depression and anxiety. So it's like, okay, cool, that's me. I think the problem was that I didn't talk about it. That was the real problem. Now I'm like, when I say I'm all these things and more, I'm like, I've got to this point in life and being able to be Rachel and being able to still be that happy, positive most of the time, laughing, joking with my friends person, with this bubbling in the background. So I'm okay with the fact that this is a part of me, but I'm not okay with the fact that I didn't speak to anyone. I didn't tell anyone. And I think I could have managed myself better if I'd spoken about it. Just like, yeah, any ailment, if you don't tell anyone, it's going to get worse. And it's always been there. And I just initially didn't have the words to explain it. And then I didn't want to explain it because it made me feel uncomfortable. So yeah, it's always been there. When I was much younger, it was just explained away as me being shy. But it was definitely anxiety. And I would have palpitations, just like I wouldn't put my hand up to ask any questions. I didn't want people to look at me. I didn't want to make a scene. But if I was in a group, then I could be more vocal and speak up more. I was even in like a street dance group, and we would dance and I would love it, but I felt secure within the group setting. But then when my dance teacher would ask me to solo, I would say no, but I would do a duo and I'd make up the whole routine with my friend. I'd make up the whole routine for our duo, but I would never dance alone. And they said that I was good enough to teach. And my dance teacher came and asked if I wanted to teach a younger group with him. And I said no, because I was just like, teach who for what? I cannot. No way. And that was something I loved. I really, really loved it. And when I look back, I think, if I'd had a little bit more confidence, or maybe if I'd spoken things through, then maybe like dance would have been a much bigger part of my journey. Definitely a much bigger part of my journey.
I find that very interesting in terms of how you obviously sort of seem to be able to play off other people, and that interaction element with the group situation helps you put yourself out there, whereas it's slightly harder on your own, where you might find that for many people actually the reverse of that would be true. Some people find it very easy to talk to themselves and practice a speech in their bedroom, but when they then go out and have to give it in front of a group of people or interact with other people, that can be hard.
But I guess it depends on the group. If I felt safe, it's my group of people, then yes. If it was like in the classrooms, where I'd have to put my hand up and definitely be alone in that, then no. That was a big no. But with my people, I'll be like, well, I've got all these people behind me, we are all one. And so that was much easier for me.
Sure. So your journey through mental health led you to do this amazing TED Talk earlier this year. But perhaps explain how that came about.
I became a speaking up advocate at my workplace because I basically wanted to be the voice for people that didn't have a voice or didn't feel that they had a voice. And I was very vocal in that setting. Because as I got older, I managed my anxiety better in terms of being able to speak up. So as I say, when I was much younger, it was a thing where I couldn't even ask questions, but I had to just learn how to deal with it as I got older, because it was like I couldn't get away with it as easily anymore because I wasn't a child. And so I just had to figure out how to make it work. So by the time I became a speaking up advocate, I'd gone through being signed off and coming back, I'd learned some more coping mechanisms, and within that role I was very vocal, asking a lot of questions and almost doing it on behalf of the old me. And I was noticed by the Speaking Up Guardian at the time, and she then started to volunteer with the TEDx NHS group, and they had someone that they were going to use for their virtual event for whilst the pandemic was going on. And then they realized after a couple of interviews it wasn't really fitting with the theme of what they were doing. And the Speaking Up Guardian remembered me, and she went and read some of my blog posts, and then she contacted me and asked if I'd be interested. And I just said yes, because I'd decided also to say yes to lots of things that before I'd said no to, or would have just doubted myself. And I mean, as I was saying yes, I was definitely doubting whether I could do it. But I was like, let me say yes and then see what happens after.
Sometimes you just got to just sign up, like running a half marathon, for example. You've just got to go, right, I'm going to do it, and then work out how a little bit later. It's right, just go for it. And then love that.
Exactly that. And I had an interview with my friend that I knew from work, and then one of the TEDx NHS team. And I told them my story. And even as I was telling them my story, I didn't know what my story was going to be. Like, I didn't know what the final thing would be what I was actually going to stand up and say. I just knew I wanted to say something. So I just kind of told them everything. And then I had to wait a couple of days. They went away with their notes and then they came back and said, yes, I could do it. And then that's how it all began. And I just, I enjoy writing creatively, and I enjoy writing stories. And so I just took that same approach to writing my true story. And I try to write how I speak. I always write how I speak, actually. So it was okay. Writing a script was okay for me because that's how I write.
And you called your TED Talk "Somebody Must Go First."
Yes.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
So my TED Talk is called "Somebody Must Go First" because I was speaking about my own mental health journey, but I grew up in a household filled with mental health issues, and all of us had high functioning depression. So when in my talk I speak about being fine, and we genuinely were all fine because we were high functioning. No one was, being neglected or like not being loved. And it wasn't that at all. My childhood was fantastic. I had a great time. I had a lovely household, environment. Everything was fine. But I know that there were mental health issues in my house and no one was talking about it. And as I started my journey with the TEDx NHS team, we started talking, and some things were shared by me and by my family that hadn't ever been spoken about before. But I had to start the conversation. And then by starting that conversation, more things were being said, more things were being explored. That I wish had been done before. But as I say, somebody needed to go first. And that, I'm hoping, will be like the ripple effect of my talk itself within the Black community, who we do find it difficult talking about mental health issues. I'm hoping that by being a visible Black woman with mental health issues, speaking openly about it, that I will be the person that went first for a couple of people. And then they will be the person that went first for a couple more people. But somebody has to start the conversation. So that's where the title comes from.
Brilliant. It's almost like that sort of pay it forward kind of, isn't it? You give it to someone, they give it to someone else, and it sort of fans out from there. Let's talk about the stats and the Black community in particular, because I don't know the stats exactly. Maybe you do, but Black adults and women in particular are more likely to suffer from mental health issues. I say I don't know by the percentages, but than white women. And members of the BAME community are more likely to be medicated. I understand as well. Can you shed some light on why, perhaps? I mean, do you know the figures first of all, and then perhaps you could explain why?
So I don't know the exact figures, and even the figures that are out there, I'd take with a pinch of salt, because I think there are a lot of people out there that think that they are actually fine, that they believe 1000% there's nothing wrong with me, I'm absolutely fine, and they are not. And I mean, my mum is one of those people. My mum definitely has anxiety. As far as she is concerned, she's absolutely fine. So those stats are even not, it's not a true representation, because we don't talk about mental health issues. It's not the norm within the Black community, and it is getting better, definitely getting better, but it's still not where it needs to be. And I think the reason why Black women are more likely to suffer from mental health issues than white women, and why we end up being in a situation where we're in crisis before asking for help is because we do play to that strong Black woman role. And it's not normalized to say, I'm not okay. We just get on with it. We just keep going and going and going and going and going. That's what we do because we are strong. And even in my TED Talk, where I talk about the Black Girl Magic label and where it came from was lovely, because it was, building up Black women and saying, you're amazing, you can do this. But then we've kind of latched onto it in a way that then became unhealthy for some, where it's like, I can do everything all the time. I'm amazing, I'm magical. And it's like, okay, actually, you need a nap. Relax for a second. It's okay. You can start again tomorrow. But it's like, no, we've got to keep going and going and going and going. And it's like, that's not okay. We need to stop. And that's how, if we stop before we get to zero, then we'd be all right, or more all right than we are now. But we tend to just keep going until you're almost like running on empty, not even stopping on empty. You just keep going on zero, and then you go to the GP and you don't want to tell them that you're not okay. So then the help isn't there, the support isn't there, because we're all fine. And it kind of filters through into a lot of different areas. That whole thing of the Black community being strong and Black women being strong, because even as you see with the death rate for Black women in a pregnancy and childbirth is much higher than for white women as well. And I think it's that whole, I'm fine, and everything's fine, and maybe not asking for help when things feel wrong, or not saying I'm in a lot of pain when you are in a lot of pain, you know. It just filters out into many areas.
But then I pick up on something that you said just a moment ago about stopping. But because we live in the 21st century now, and everyone has to be 100% go on at all times. But you've spoken beautifully about this need to pause, and you just mentioned there, just have a nap, which I think is great. What would you say to people who don't take the time to just pause?
I would say that you definitely need to pause. You must pause for a second, because it's just not normal to keep going. It's not normal to do that. No one is ever on 100%. And to think that you could be at 100% or more all the time, every day, is just no. Give yourself a moment to recharge and come back better, and understand that on the days where you aren't at 100%, so say you wake up and you feel like you're on 32%. That's what you're on. And you give every person that you come into contact with 32%. You've actually given them everything. You've given them your all. You've given them your best. And that is enough, because that's all you have. You don't need to pretend on your 32% day that you're on 100, because you're not. And you're not giving them all of yourself. You're giving too much. 32% is everything you have, and that's all you need to give them, even if you want to give it to them. Maybe you don't want to give it to them. Maybe you want to keep your 32% for yourself and have a nice relaxing day, and then come back to them when you're at 63% and then give them that instead. But it's okay. It's okay to do that. You don't have to feel bad about it. I know there's a whole like mum guilt thing as well, that you don't need to worry about that, because you'll be a better person for it by not trying to give too much, not trying to give what you don't have. Just pause for a moment, restock, and then come back.
It's a hugely important message, isn't it? I mean, we all have good days, we all have bad days, and even if even when we're having a bad day, if we're still able to give 32% of ourselves, and that's all we're able to give, that's a huge commitment. That is effectively giving 100%.
Exactly that. With my TED Talk, there was a whole issue of me not wanting to cry when I done my TED Talk. And at the beginning of the journey, which started at the end of 2020, like I think November times it might have been, and then my TED Talk was in April. So right at the beginning, it was like, I'm definitely not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I refuse to cry. It's not going to happen. We're not doing it. And then as the journey went on and I'm writing my script, I'm writing my story and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to say. This is the message. And I'm saying to everyone in the world that, yeah, it's okay not to be fine, but I'm not going to cry. And you should talk about it, but I'm definitely not going to cry. And I'm going along and I'm thinking, well, this isn't really, this message that I'm giving out isn't what I'm doing. It's not what I'm thinking, because I wanted to give 160%. The performance needs to be perfection. If it's not perfection, then it's terrible. And I was going along like that. And on the day I done my TED Talk, it was a virtual event and I had a skeleton audience, and I had the option, if I'd wanted to do my talk again. I could do it more than once, whereas normally when it's a full audience, you can only do it once and that's it. So I had the option and I knew I had the option. And I went up on the stage and I'd done my TED Talk and I did cry. And I cried at a point where I'd never cried before, which was shocking. And when I cried, and then I got myself together and I finished. And because I'd been on this journey with the same two people the whole way through, I was asked if I wanted to do it again. And I said, no, I didn't want to do it again. And then because they'd known how strongly I felt about the performance they said, you could do it, just do it again and see how you feel. So I did it again, went through it again. And after the second time, I didn't cry on the second time, and it was perfect in my head, right? But I said to them, I want to use the first one. The first one is the one I'm going to use because the first one is the real one. And that one is okay. The second one is like, I've polished it and that's not me.
It's a bit
The
sort of manufactured, or, it's not
Yes.
the real Rachel. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
So I said, no, we can use the first one. And they were even shocked because I'd been on a journey within my mental health journey. I'd been on a journey with them. And that day, I wanted to give 160%, right? That's what my aim was the whole way through. But on that day, to me, after finishing, it wasn't 160%. For me, it was about 65% in terms of my performance and delivery, and because being a perfectionist, it was about 65%. But that was my 100%. That was my 100%. And it took a while after to understand that was my 100. And it was a real journey. And as I say, it took a while after, because I was like 65%, it's fine, 65%. But then I was like, no, that was 100. And it was enough. It really was enough.
But was that an incredible lesson for you personally in terms of this journey that you're going through and giving what you hope and dream is going to be absolutely everything to it, and then what comes out is not quite what you expected or maybe wanted it to be, but actually it is the most powerful, raw, beautiful, inspiring talk that I've seen in a while, and actually it sort of gives your whole character over, and it's actually, it's 100 in my estimations, it's a 100% talk, absolutely no doubt about it.
Thank you. But yeah, for me, it was definitely a journey definitely a journey for me, a part of my journey so far. And it definitely has helped with my anxiety. I mean, I do still have anxiety, it's not magically disappeared, but I'm still alive. I'm still here. Everything was fine. I cried and everything was fine. The world didn't fall to pieces around me. And people have said that it was good, and people have given me feedback on me, like, Rachel, that was me, whereas I've spent a long time with the high functioning depression, being who I think I need to be in society, being that well-rounded, look at how well I'm doing and how functional I am. I'm so amazing. But I literally stood on the stage and broke down and was open, and people said that that was okay. And I mean, a lot of people said it was okay. And for my anxiety, that's done big things, because there have been times where I've not done what I've wanted to do because I've been worried about the response. And that's made a huge difference for me, and made me realize why it's even more important for me to show the realness of this stuff. So yeah, it's big.
You use the word open, and on your Twitter page, you say that your superpower is that you're strong enough to be vulnerable. What do you mean by that?
So basically, even on my journey with my TED Talk and the crying, I was like, I don't want to cry because I don't know if I could bring it back, because it might just get too much, and I won't be able to bring it back. I won't be able to finish the talk, and I felt it was like a weakness, and especially within the Black community, and just in general, sometimes, like, being open and saying that you're not okay is seen as a weakness, is seen as you're supposed to be able to get on with it, especially as an adult, like, oh, I'm an adult, I can just do things. But I feel like actually saying and being honest and saying that you're not all right and like, help me, I need some help, is strong and powerful, because who wants to do that? I've spoken to a lot of people, and about the issue of speaking openly about mental health issues and needing help, and people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to open up about it. So actually doing so is strong. It's strength. And that's why I've put that my superpower is being strong enough to be vulnerable, because I feel like people need to understand that actually asking for help is a strong thing to do. It's not a weak thing to do. It's harder to ask for help than to pretend that everything's fine and hope it goes away, because you're opening up, you're being putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. And I think that's brave. And I want to encourage more people to think that way and feel brave in asking for help, and being open about it. And so when I've now allowed for my TED Talk with me crying to be the one, I'm like, well, that's brave. Well done, me. So now I'm strong enough to be vulnerable, because I was not strong enough to be vulnerable at the beginning.
And it takes bravery, courage, strength I want to come on to this phrase, I'm fine. It takes bravery, courage, strength to say something other than I'm fine. It's such a dangerous phrase, isn't it? From a psychological perspective, simply taking the time to think, I'm not feeling great today, and I wonder why that is. That self-awareness that can lead to all sorts of benefits, improvements to focus, performance. Well, I think we should all try and be a little less fine. And by that I mean obviously exploring how we're feeling rather than feeling worse. But how do you assess how you're feeling? And we, if you've got a good days, bad days, what processes do you go through?
I think I've had to go through a journey of allowing myself to feel, and processing and being okay with whatever that feeling happens to be, and letting myself just for a moment feel the emotion and feel it fully. And that's not necessarily to say sit in the darkness, for weeks and weeks. I mean, sometimes that's all you've got, and sometimes you can't do anything about it. But coming out of the feeling, if it's not a good one, as quickly as you can, finding ways to cope, finding ways to make yourself feel just a little bit better, and then a little bit better, and then a little bit better. I think can only be done if you first of all let yourself feel the emotion, else you do just walk around thinking I'm fine, everything's okay, and you don't actually address the thing that's making you not feel good. You have to address it. And I think yoga and meditation definitely helped me with that. And having that, going to my classes and being forced to stop and being forced to think and breathe and just, let go of everything else that's going on and just think about myself, has made a huge difference to me in terms of aligning myself and realizing when things are not okay. Why is it not okay? There's plenty of time to think, what's going on right now? It was through meditation and yoga that I realized that SAD was a part of my life as well, the season effect disorder. And I went and got myself a blue light. That's really been helping, doing blue light therapy. But I think if I didn't stop for a minute and think, when is it? Why? Nothing's happened. Nothing has happened. And then I realized, oh, the clocks have changed. Like, that's what's going on. It's dark outside. And then I could address it. Whereas before, I would have ignored the feeling, wouldn't have tried to look into why I was feeling that way, and then would have just carried on spiraling,
It's a very important message to almost sort of accept the feelings that we have and sort of ride them out rather than trying to, squash them down, because then we get numb to them and we don't understand the feelings that we are experiencing.
Exactly.
So that, I think you might have perhaps touched on it. Well, I'll come on to the questions that we ask all of our guests, set questions at the end. And one is there anything that you do on a regular basis that's an absolute non-negotiable? You have to do it to improve your mindset or improve your mood. Is that yoga? Is that meditation? Or is there something else perhaps?
So for me, I know that it is something that I have mentioned, but it is really important to me, and it is actually napping. I literally will have a nap because sometimes I just need all the noise and all the outside everything to stop for a second. And when I get out from the nap, I'm fine. And I think before, like, napping, like, what are you doing? Why you're not a baby? Why are you napping? And like napping in the day. Now it's like a proper treat for me, especially if I know I've had a really busy week and I've done a lot of things and I'm feeling a little bit harassed. And I think, right, when I get in, I'm going to have a nap. And all the naps where you don't have to set an alarm as well. A weekend nap, fantastic. Heaven. Oh, just brilliant. And I need them. If I'm feeling, I'll have a nap. Sometimes I will do it so that I do go to my yoga session first. I'll go to yoga and then I'll come back and then I'll have a nap and then I'll have a lovely day. And that's what I do. That's that's my pause. Naps are my pause.
I read something recently that, and I think anthropologically speaking, we were actually, thousands of years and thousands of years ago, we actually took naps in the middle of the day. we had 2 sleeps a day. I read that recently. So yeah, I think you're onto something.
It definitely feels really good. I'd recommend naps for everything.
What makes you good at what you do?
I think that what makes me good at what I do is that I don't really know what I'm doing. So I think that's a good thing. I think I approach everything in a childlike manner and just push all the buttons and see what happens. And it helps to do it in that way, especially with my anxiety and depression. Like overthinking it will stop me from doing a lot of things. So I don't overthink it. I just say, okay, yes. And then I start like touching things and see what's going to happen if I do this or what will happen if I do that. And I don't block myself in advance from the opportunities or the possibilities because I have no idea what's going on.
I love that. That's such an honest answer. What makes you good at it? I don't know. What would you say to a young Rachel?
Oh, I'd say to her that it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Stop worrying. You're worrying too much. You're worrying too much about what everyone else is doing. You're worrying too much about what everyone else is thinking. Think about you. Be just a teeny bit more selfish and think about you because you're too worried about what other people are doing and they might not even know who you are.
But
Just
thinking
keep
about
going.
you, it's not at all selfish, not at all.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yes. Being aware of yourself and self-care is necessary. It's necessary. So yes, it's not selfish. I would have told her, just look after yourself and that would be okay. I spent a long time, a lot of my childhood thinking that like catastrophizing things unnecessarily and it was a waste, and it would have been all right in the end. So that's what I would say. Keep going, you'll be all right.
And anything that you've taken inspiration from recently, any ideas, people, places, books, you name it?
I definitely am motivated by my daughter. She's made a huge difference. I watch her and I think, wow, I don't know how how you're doing these things. I don't take credit for the things that she can do because I think she's amazing and I've wanted for her to go further than me and be better than me and run faster and fly higher than me. And she's only 11 now, but I look at her and I think, you're great. And I want you to look at me and think, I'm great, And so I do a lot and I push myself more because of her, because I want her to be proud of me. And I also want to open doorways for her that might be closed now. And in doing so, I'm hopefully opening doorways for other people as well. So I'm hoping her journey will be met by less resistance than mine was, because I'm hoping that I'm making a way for her. So she definitely inspires me. And we even in mental health, we talk about our feelings and mental health from now. And she talks to her friends about how they're feeling and what's going on with them. And it makes me very proud. And I feel very inspired by her tiny little moves that she's doing. It makes me very happy.
We've come a beautiful full circle from when you introduced yourself as Rachel, a mum, to this inspiration and motivation that you take from your daughter. That's a lovely way to end. Is there anything else that you want to tell people about? Perhaps if people wanted to get in touch, how might they do that? Is there anything else that you're working on that might be of interest?
Happy for people to get in touch with me and start conversations. I love all of that. It has been amazing, the amount of conversations that I have been able to have since doing my TED Talk. I don't currently have any big plans at the moment for the next step. I'm just enjoying going with the flow and enjoying talking to lots of different people like yourself. Hopefully I'll be able to talk to more people. And if anyone does want to get in touch, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok as well, actually.
Very,
Under
very trendy of you.
I
Wow.
love a bit of TikTok. I'm the cool mum. So you can find me there on Bald Font. So it's at BALD_font, like the writing font. That came from my blog days, which I've been really neglecting. So maybe I'll write a blog, and then you can find me there too on
Love to.
WordPress. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and I'm happy to talk. DM me if you've got anything you'd like to talk about, if anything's resonated, then I'd love to talk. But yeah, that's where I am.
Wonderful. Listen, Rachel, it's been so lovely to chat. You have so much energy and so much passion for this. You say it all with a smile on your face, and again, it comes back to this high functioning element you talk about, whereas actually there's stuff sort of deeper down which we all need to understand a little bit better, because there is no way that I would associate you with depression and anxiety. It's just unfathomable almost, and yet and obviously from that has come this wonderful inspirational TED Talk and this wonderful message. And I really would urge people to chat with you if they're struggling with anything, if that's okay with you.
Then okay.
Wonderful. Listen, thank you very much indeed. I wish you the absolute best for the future, the rest of the week, whatever the plans might be. You don't know what they are, you don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. It's wonderful.
It's gonna be great.
Brilliant. Isn't Rachel wonderful? I hope you'll agree that she is energetic and passionate, and it's telling that her mental health issues went undiagnosed for so long, given her ability to function so well in group settings. Now that she has a handle on her mental health, she is truly inspiring in her mission to get others to open up, especially when issues are so prominent amongst the Black community. I've certainly taken something from our chat, namely to not put so much pressure on myself to perform at 100% all of the time, and I hope you have too. As always, if you enjoyed the interview, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the 87% YouTube channel, and look out for the next episode of Life Happens coming soon.